Hello there. In this video, you'll learn how to facilitate an action learning session for a group of about 6 people. If you want to make rapid and immediate progress on a problem, a challenge, an idea, or an opportunity, then this simple process really is a great choice. It's both remarkably simple and incredibly powerful. I've used action learning with many groups and business teams and watched them as they made more progress on a problem or issue in just 30 minutes than they previously made in weeks or even months. The essence of action learning is asking great questions that lead to new insights about problems or issues, which can then lead to actions that can be taken to make progress. When this is done in a structured way, amazing things really can happen. You and I, and the people that we work with, are often far smarter than we might give ourselves credit for. Using action learning, we can solve most of the problems or issues that we face, rather than immediately seeking help from external sources. So let's start talking about what you need to do before the action learning session starts. Firstly, you need to choose the people that you would like to join the group. Like I said, either 5 or 6 people is ideal, and they should obviously want to come, not be forced. 7 people is okay, 4 people is just about workable, but 8 is too many and 3 is not really enough. Then choose the problem or issue that you want to work on, or ask each person in the group to think about and bring their own issue to the session. Then you need to choose the location or room that you want to use. You just need 5 chairs in a semicircle with 1 chair in front facing the others, with no tables in front. Each person will need some paper and a pen to make notes with. Next, work out how much time you'll need. The minimum time you need for one problem or issue is 30 minutes. Now, if I'm working with a team on one problem or issue, I plan for an hour to give us enough time for an open discussion after that first 30 minutes of that specific action learning process. If each person in that group of 6 brings a problem or issue, and each person gets 30 minutes, then you'll need 3 hours. Plus, I would suggest 15 minutes for a break halfway. Lastly, you need to let those people know who you've invited what the plan is, what they're going to be doing, why you're going to be doing it, what they need to think about, if anything, before they come to the session, when and where you will meet, and how long the session will last. On the day, you need to set the room up before everyone arrives. Once everyone is there and settled in, you'll need to explain the process and the purpose of the action learning session. So here is a simple way to do this based on 6 people, each bringing an issue to the group. If you'll just be focusing on one problem for the whole time, then just adjust your language as necessary. And just feel free to print out the words I use and just use them in your own way. Okay, so this is what you could actually say to frame that action learning session up. Thank you all for coming today. The purpose of this session is to make progress on some of the most important problems and issues that each of us faces right now. Doing this will move us closer to achieving our goals. Now, I've used action learning before, and it's helped me to solve problems much faster than when I've tried to solve them just by myself. So we'll take a break at 10:30 and we'll finish about 12:30. Some of you know how this works, but some of you don't. So let me just briefly explain the process. It's really very simple. Each of us will have 30 minutes as the presenter. When you're the presenter, you'll get 1 to 2 minutes to describe your problem, issue, or idea to the group. Now, it doesn't matter if it's still rough and unformed. That's why you're bringing it to the group, so they can help you. After the presenter has described their issue, each of us, in turn, asks that person an inquiry or reflection type question. A question that helps them to deepen their understanding of the issue and to generate insight for them about it. So this is not to be our advice wrapped up as questions, especially if we think we know what the solution or the answer is. Action learning is all about the asking of great questions and then listening to the answers. It's about the presenter's insight. It's not about how clever we are. One of us will write down all the questions for the presenter so that they can focus on listening and thinking, and so they have a record of those questions afterwards. You'll notice that questions will naturally come into your mind as the process evolves. And as you think of these questions, just write them down so you remember them, and then you can choose which one you want to ask when it's your turn in the round to ask a question. I will give you a list of useful questions that you can choose from if you need to as well. Now, as the questions are asked, the presenter thinks about the question and then answers it, or chooses not to, it's up to them. This isn't to become a conversation. The questioner doesn't get to ask another follow-up question or even to clarify the question that they've asked. This way we can all practice asking great, clear questions. So we'll have 2 or maybe even 3 rounds of questions. Then we'll have another round, but this time each person can offer one piece of advice or feedback to the presenter. Again, they don't need to respond unless they want to. And again, this is not to become a conversation at that stage. After we've finished that feedback round, the presenter will share what he or she has learned from the experience and also, very critically, what actions he or she will take and by when they're going to do that. We'll then have a very quick debrief to answer any questions that anyone has about the process, and then we'll simply repeat the process for each of us in the group. And each of us will get exactly 30 minutes as the presenter. Then right at the end, we'll debrief as a group as to what we learned from this whole session. Now, a few things to remember. Like I said, this isn't a conversation. It's about asking inquiry and reflective type questions and not giving our advice wrapped up as questions. And I will remind us of these things if we start to do them. So let's start, and we can learn more about how this works as we go along. And that's all you need to say to frame up the action learning session. Then you just hand out copies of the list of useful questions to all the participants and ask who wants to go first. Then that person presents their issue and the whole thing just starts moving by itself. As you're facilitating the session, there's some useful things to remember. Firstly, as you set up and facilitate the process, it's important that you hold the belief that the process will generate new insights and new thinking on the issue all by itself. You don't need to force this to happen. Also, gently correct people if they ask leading or advice type questions. Just ask them to reform the question, think of another one, or even just ask a question from that list that you've given them. Those questions on the list that you can download from the link next to this video have been tried and tested, and they all work very, very well. In fact, most of the sessions that I run these days with teams, I insist that they only ask questions from the list for the first round of questions. This helps them to realize the power of just using simple, open inquiry or reflection type questions. Don't let people ask more than one question at a time or get into a conversation with the presenter. You need to jump on this one quite quickly to stop it just becoming a normal conversation, because this is not that. Allow each person their full time, no more and no less. The idea with action learning, as you probably already know, is that this same group then meets up every month for at least 6 months to review the actions that they've taken and to run the process again. This helps to increase accountability and the likelihood that people will do what they say they will do, because only when they do this will we end up with new results. And as the group gets into this habit of action learning, they'll see the benefits for themselves and they'll become much better at asking questions and listening. And obviously both of those skills immediately translate into all the other conversations that they have with their colleagues and even with their customers. And so that's all you need to know to start facilitating your own action learning sessions. I strongly encourage you to start using this simple approach to problem solving and get into the habit of doing it regularly with your work colleagues. You'll be amazed at how much progress you can make on an issue in such a short amount of time. Thank you.